Broadcasting live from the Albay PIO News Center, providing you the most exclusive news update from all over the province. This is News at 12. In the local scene, the provincial government of Albay, through the Albay Provincial Health Office, received multiple recognitions at the 14th Salud Bicolnon Awards. The province was conferred the Disaster Risk Reduction and Management in Health Institutionalization Award for integrating disaster risk reduction into its health system. Albay was cited for clear policies and structures embedding DRRM health in provincial health planning. The province was named top performing for the case notification for its effective reporting and recording of tuberculosis cases. The awards highlight Albay's commitment to proactive, transparent, and accountable public health services. In other story, a capacity building training on turning waste into income-generating products was held on December 15 at the Old Session Hall in Albay. The Trash to Cash training taught participants practical skills to convert waste materials into saleable goods. Ledipo Albay Officer Jamie Florence Iribaya said the activity focused on hands-on techniques for income generation. The session demonstrated how repurposing waste can protect the environment and support local entrepreneurs. Participants were encouraged to apply these methods in their communities for sustainable livelihoods. In other news, the Albay Sangguniang has approved the Civil Society Organizations Code to strengthen participatory governance in the province. The ordinance establishes a clear framework for CSO accreditation and participation in local special bodies. It affirms that no accreditation fee will be imposed to ensure inclusivity and accessibility. Officials said the measure empowers civil society as key partners in policy making and development planning. In the national scene, at least 8 billion pesos worth of farm to market roads projects lack proper identification in the bicameral discussions on the proposed 6.793 trillion pesos 2026 national budget. The new projects were not included in the Senate-approved list and are missing essential details, including grid coordinates and project descriptions. Previously, 33 billion pesos in farm-to-market projects had been approved with complete information. A revised list now contains 8 billion pesos in projects without proper validation or geotagging. It remains unclear whether the revised list came from the Department of Agriculture or the House of Representative staff. Senators are expected to seek reconsideration of the allocation unless complete details and verification data are provided. The discovery has raised the possibility of a reenacted budget in early 2026 to prevent approval of a General Appropriations Act vulnerable to corruption and mismanagement. Senate leadership is stressing transparency and stricter oversight in the budget process. In other story, Senator Rizzo Ontiveros has proposed allocating 15 billion from the 51 billion pesos medical assistance to indigent and financially incapacitated patients fund to extend zero balance billing to local government unit hospitals. The program currently covers only patients under basic or ward accommodation in Department of Health hospitals, but the expansion would allow more Filipinos to access free treatment in both DOH and LGU facilities. The proposed provision would direct a portion of the medical assistance fund straight to LGU hospitals to provide zero billing, responding to the Department of Health's call for wider coverage. The measure aims to give immediate medical assistance to patients without conditions, replacements, or patronage requirements. Ontiveros' proposal is part of her broader health reform efforts under Senate Bill number 1593, the Universal Healthcare Medical Assistance Program. Under the bill, registered social workers would process medical assistance applications within 72 hours, eliminating the need for guarantee letters. The proposal reflects ongoing efforts to ensure that medical aid reaches those in need efficiently and effectively. In other news, the Communist Party of the Philippines has announced a 4-day unilateral ceasefire over the Christmas and New Year holidays. The truce is scheduled from December 25 to 26 and December 31 to January 1, intended to allow Filipinos to celebrate amidst difficult social and economic conditions. CPP Information Officer Marco Valbuena said the ceasefire also commemorates the party's 57th anniversary on December 26. He added that members of the New People's Army, the CPP's armed wing, would remain on active defense mode and on high alert against possible attacks by government forces during the truce. The Department of National Defense dismissed the announcement, calling it a sad propaganda stunt and emphasizing that military duties cannot be paused for holidays. The Armed Forces of the Philippines echoed the DND, stating that its personnel would continue operations alongside the Philippine National Police to maintain peace and order throughout the holiday season. This is the first holiday ceasefire declared by the CPP since 2023, when a 2-day truce was observed, and the first unilateral ceasefire since 2020 during the United Nations call for a global armistice amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The ceasefire announcement comes a month after the government and the CPP's political arm, the National Democratic Front, signed a joint statement in Oslo, Norway, agreeing in principle to resume peace talks after several years of stalled negotiations. Valbuena criticized the DND and the AFP for what he described as a knee-jerk reaction to the ceasefire, reiterating the CPP's intent to uphold the temporary truce despite the military's rejection. And in the news outside the country, the International Criminal Court has rejected Israel's challenge to its investigation into alleged war crimes in the Gaza Strip. The court also upheld arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant over accusations of war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel argued that October 7 Hamas attacks required a new investigation, but the ICC dismissed the claim. Israel's Foreign Affairs spokesperson Oren Marmorstein condemned the ruling on X, accusing the court of politicization. The ICC is also reviewing another Israeli challenge to its jurisdiction and a request to disqualify prosecutor Karim Khan over sexual abuse allegations, which he denies. Established in 2002, the ICC prosecutes individuals accused of gravest crimes, including war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Although Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, it can still challenge the court's action. The court confirmed in 2021 that its jurisdiction covers Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. A fragile ceasefire has been in place since October 10, but violence in Gaza has continued, resulting in further Palestinian casualties. In other story, Malaysia is actively mediating between Thailand and Cambodia to de-escalate tensions along their long-disputed border, seeking to prevent further outbreaks of violence. The ASEAN Foreign Ministers' meeting, originally scheduled for December 16, has been postponed to December 22 at the request of both countries to allow time for the situation to stabilize and for diplomatic efforts to progress. Thailand has considered implementing a fuel export blockade to Cambodia as fighting spreads to coastal areas of the disputed region, raising concerns over the humanitarian and economic impact of the conflict. The border dispute reignited in 2025 following the death of a Cambodian soldier in May, triggering multiple clashes that have displaced hundreds of thousands of civilians on both sides and worsened regional instability. Malaysia has proposed deploying an Asian observer team led by its Chief of Defense Forces to monitor compliance with the ceasefire, with a mission supported by satellite imagery provided by the United States. Data from field observations and satellite tracking will be compiled and presented at the postponed ASEAN meeting, offering member states neutral, evidence-based updates on the situation and the effectiveness of the ceasefire. Diplomatic efforts are ongoing, with Malaysia coordinating daily communications between the two nations to prevent further escalation and encourage a sustainable resolution to the long-standing border tensions. And finally, in the news outside the country, the Philippine Consulate in Sydney has confirmed that no Filipino nationals were killed or injured in the mass shooting at Bondi Beach on December 14. The attack occurred during a gathering for the Jewish festival of Hanukkah, involving multiple victims in a crowded area. Australian authorities reported that 11 people died while several others were injured. One of the two alleged shooters was killed at the scene and the second remains in critical condition. The Philippine Consulate has been coordinating closely with the New South Wales Police Protection Operations Unit to monitor the situation and ensure the safety of Filipino nationals in the area. Filipino residents and visitors in Sydney are urged to remain vigilant, follow the guidance of local police and emergency services, and take necessary precautions in public spaces. The consulate expressed sympathies to the families and loved ones of those affected by the tragedy and continues to monitor developments closely. And that's all for the news at 12, December 17, 2025. We'll be back tomorrow for more news updates. And thanks to our news writer, LJ Lurejo and Naomi Ruth Hernandez. And on the technical side, Chad Bobis. And our Provincial Information Officer, OIC Marty Gonzalez. And under the supervision of our Governor, Noel Irusal. I am Greg Hallare. Thank you for subscribing. Albay in my heart.
Sa mga padaba akong mahal kong albayanos, natapos na naman ang sarong taon. Kan pagpuon kang 2025, mating-mati ko na po ang sa indong pagpadaba, mainit na suporta sa indong vice-gobernador. Ngunyan, Disyembre na naman, yaon man giraray kamo, dakula ang sakuyang pasasalamat sa indong padagos na pagtabang asin suporta. Maugmaan sa kong puso na parte kamo kang nakaaging 2025. Asin sa masunod na taon, urog tapang pakusugon ang satuyang pag-iribanan. Sararo para sa satuyang probinsya na may pagmukulog, pagkamuot, asin pagtarabangan para sa mga albayanos. Maligayang Pasko, Albay mahal ko, kamo.
Maligayang Pasko, Albay mahal